I remember when I got my very first corporate job. I was 21 years old, so a couple years ago, and it was just an entry-level bank teller job. Nothing too glamorous, but it was my first corporate job. And I remember my family being proud of me because they were like, "Oh, you got your first big boy job." And the job itself only paid about $20 an hour. But at the time, I was still a college student, so it was a lot of money for me. And I remember when I first got that job, my first thought was, it's kind of crazy how my family is praising me and saying congratulations and celebrating when it could have gone totally different. If the hiring manager that hired me said no, and they didn't like my answers, then I would have never gotten that job. If that hiring manager didn't like my appearance, my vibes, then they could have said no easily, and I would have never gotten that job. If my appearance made them uncomfortable, they could have easily said no. But I was lucky enough to be liked by a person that I don't know. I was lucky enough that they saw me as normal, when any other person could have thought differently. And it kind of struck me as very odd. We need to be approved by other people to get jobs and to make a living. I heard people online saying, well, you want to be likable if you want to work a job. No one wants to work with someone they don't like. But here's the thing. There are aspects about every single person that some people may not like. So let's just say you go to a job interview. Let's say you are a black male and the person that's interviewing you is another black male. They would understand each other more than if the interviewer was a white male. And that could definitely play a part in whether they hire you or not. And they label it as, oh, he was a good fit. Oh, he has the knowledge for this role. When it might not really be the case. They say that it's illegal to discriminate when hiring and the whole employment thing. Oh, you can't discriminate based off of religion, race, gender. But people can do it and you never know. But anyways, I just find it so ridiculous how one human being, and in this situation, the hiring manager, she got to decide whether I make a living or not. She got to decide, are you going to stay unemployed? Are you going to stay jobless? Or are you going to have a job and be able to progress in life? Are you going to stay broke or are you going to be able to make money? This is insane how one single person can determine this. And nobody seems to talk about it. If you're someone that doesn't have a job, you're already probably applying to numerous jobs. First things first, an AI gets to decide whether you progress or not, so that's already absurd. Whether you put the right words on your resume or not, that's step one. So that's already dehumanizing enough. But to top it off, you have another person that has biases, and they get to decide whether you make a living or not. Are you serious? And the crazy thing is, people just don't see how ridiculous this is. Going back to what people say about, oh, you have to be likable if you want a job. No one wants to work with someone they don't like. People have disliked me for the dumbest reasons possible. Oh, he's too quiet. Oh, I don't like his demeanor. And people just, they just don't like you for the dumbest reasons. And a lot of the times it's something you cannot control. And it's different when it's someone that's obviously, a bad person, an annoying person. But if you're someone that's just being yourself, not trying to bother anyone, you can still have people dislike you for whatever reason. And here's my problem with that take as well. We all need to make money to eat food. We need money to survive. We didn't get to choose that. So shouldn't it be more accessible, more, easier to make a living? How have we come to a point where we have to jump through all these hurdles and be likable and, put on a smile, put on a fake smile just to make a living? How have we turned survival into a roleplay game? How? And when it comes to interviews in particular, they're the most absurd thing I can think of. So I'll give you guys an example of one interview I had recently. And just for some context, I hate my job. I don't even think going to another job is going to make things easier, but I just want something new. I want to try something else. and I've been applying to jobs and stuff. And I had an interview about 2 weeks ago, and the time they were supposed to call me, they did not call me. They rescheduled it to a few days later. So when that happened, I kind of already knew, I didn't get the job. It's just completely obvious. And then comes a few days later and we have the interview. So they start off, introducing themselves. I didn't really care. Then comes the act. Then comes the roleplay. And if you're a subscriber of mine, you kind of already know what I'm like. You know my personality. Not all of it, but you have an idea. All of that had to be set aside. And I put on an act. I started being fake, pretending like I have enthusiasm for this job. Obviously, that's not the case. Obviously, it's all about survival. But me and this interviewer, we both played pretend. To put it bluntly, it felt humiliating. And this person that I don't know had the ability to judge. Oh, should I give this job to this person, or should I leave them broke? Well, maybe not broke because I have a job, but should I give this person a job and, help them progress in life? Or should I keep them stuck? They have all the power. They have the power to control, where my life goes at that very moment. And I find that ridiculous. And this specific job is a job that I can do. I have experience, relevant experience too. And what happened? No response whatsoever. So yeah, I played pretend, played a humiliating game that I hate. I betrayed my true self just to have an attempt to, progress in life. This specific job that I applied to, that I interviewed for, it was more money than my current job, and also it was a more desirable location. So at the time I was thinking, if I get this job, I'll be able to make enough money to move out. I'd be able to, go move to a place that I actually desire. And this person held all the power in whether or not that would be a reality. The absurdity of that was just so overwhelming, but I did it anyways. And the worst part isn't even the fact that I didn't even get a response. The worst part is that it was probably already decided that I wouldn't get the job before I even did the interview. I think it was pretty much just, a way of showing respect, or pretending like they can show respect. They wasted their time. We were both playing pretend, even though we already know, what happened. And the thing is, I'm the one that got humiliated. I'm the one stuck, hoping for something. They already knew what's up. And, the way they were talking as if, oh, your answers are great. Oh, you'd be a great fit. It was all fake. And that's just depressing. We live in a world where fakeness is the default. People cannot be real. And we're stuck playing ridiculous games just to survive. It's truly embarrassing. There I was trying to, give a detailed explanation of all my experience, trying to make it seem like I'm a good candidate. And for what? Just to get rejected. Just to get no response whatsoever. And the funniest part is that was a phone interview. Real in-person interviews, oh boy, those are where it's truly absurd. So first things first, you have to dress up in what's called professional attire, something that human beings made up. And that alone is ridiculous. Why does it matter what we wear? Did humanity forget the purpose of clothes? Why have we attached labels to clothes? Why? Clothes were meant for protecting your body from, weather conditions. And clothes were also made to not have people see things that you don't want them to see. And we're the ones that attach these labels to it. Professional. You gotta wear dress shirt, dress pants, suit and tie. And then you go to that interview, dressed up. If you try to wear more standard clothes, then you're automatically gonna be rejected, whether or not you can actually do the job. Besides the clothes, your actual physical appearance is also going to be heavily important. I remember before I had my bank teller interview, my dad told me, oh, get a haircut. I was like, why does my hair matter? Why does my hair matter when I'm just trying to survive? How is my hair relevant to whether or not I can count money? Well, it's not relevant. I didn't bother saying this to my dad because, he's programmed. He's brainwashed. But I got my haircut and I was like, this is so stupid. I need to change aspects about myself, things that have nothing to do with the job, when all I'm trying to do is just make a living, survive. Why does my appearance on top of my clothes have to do with this? How is it a factor? It's absurd. It's downright embarrassing how we've turned this into a game. And the funniest part is, you can get a haircut, you can get dressed up, and then you could still be rejected. So you basically wasted your time and energy just to be rejected. Now let's move on to the actual interview questions. These people ask you the dumbest questions of all time, and one of the ones that irks me the most: why do you want to work here? This question right here is just, wow, it's just truly depressing. We all know why we want to work here. The ones asking the questions, they know why we want to work here. But we have to literally roleplay and play pretend, even though everyone knows the truth. Why? What has humanity done? Why did we turn survival into this miserable roleplay game? It's truly embarrassing. And it's funny because both the interviewer and the person being interviewed, they both know this. We all know this. It's all an act. But for some reason, unlike us, these people just haven't seen how absurd it is. They don't feel the need to question it because it's just normal to them. They see this ridiculous game as normal to existence. They don't understand that existence was not supposed to be like this. But this system, this game, has brainwashed us into thinking this is just how life is, even though that's not really the case, guys. And the funniest part is how we have to pretend like our jobs have meaning. And this is another topic I want to get into. The thing about jobs is that jobs is just, slavery that's dressed up as meaning. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're a McDonald's worker, a software engineer, a bank teller. It doesn't matter what you are. At the end of the day, we're just wasting away our lives, our, finite lives, chasing after money, being a slave. It's not meaning, it's survival. And this entire roleplay game, it pretends like this actually has meaning, even though deep down we already know that it's all about money. And the way people treat their jobs as, something special, like it's a part of their identity. I can't even count the amount of people I've seen that, when you ask them or when they want to introduce themselves and they say, oh, I'm a software engineer. Oh, I'm a medical this and that. Oh, I'm a nurse. And here's my response to that. I don't care what you are. It's literally slavery, survival. And we're pretending like this actually is supposed to mean anything. Oh, this job is high class, this job is low class. To me, a job is a job. What difference is, a person that works at McDonald's and a person that's a finance manager? You're both slaves. You're both going to work your lives away. One is going to make more money than the other, but it doesn't change the fact that you're both slaves. This entire concept of one job being more meaningful than another, it's completely made up. It's absolutely garbage. And the funny thing is, a lot of the jobs that we consider low class are actually the most important. Trash collectors, service workers, the people that make our food, farmers. These jobs, in my opinion, it's still slavery, but very respectable slavery. These are jobs where your contributions are, in plain sight. It's obvious. When those garbage men come to pick up my trash once a week, I can physically see the difference they're making. Because if they were not here, then trash would just pile up. And funny enough, that's exactly what happened in my city. It was about a month ago where our trash workers were on strike. And that's because they were being underpaid. And I'd say for like 2 weeks, we didn't really have our trash being collected, and we had to go to a dump site to dump the trash. And that was very annoying, guys. That was ridiculously annoying. But I thought to myself, how are these people being underpaid when, look at what they're doing? They're contributing more than some software engineer, let's be real. And yet they're considered lower class even though they're contributing more than all of these, BS jobs. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So even though it was annoying for me to deal with, not having my trash being collected, I completely understood why. And one thing I like about, the whole blue collar thing, jobs like that, the people that work those jobs are the least fake. I used to work a warehouse job and I didn't like it, but I like the fact that I can just put my headphones in, just zone out and, move boxes around and just do general warehouse stuff, no thinking required. And I hardly had to communicate at all. And people were still fake to an extent, but they weren't nearly as fake as my bank teller job. That's why I always lean towards more, blue collar, jobs like that. I mean, I'm not doing those jobs right now, but I really did like how I didn't have to be completely fake. It's one of those jobs where everyone kind of knows that it's just for survival, and you're not expected to be passionate about it. But unfortunately, it didn't pay enough. To be honest, if I could get a job like that that's full-time and that actually pays a living wage, then I'd do it. I'd quit my job right now and do it. Because my current job, you just have to be fake all the time. You have to play pretend. It's just draining. But obviously, jobs that don't require you to be fake and pay well enough, they don't really exist. Which is very unfortunate because they used to exist. Just not now. Anyways, going back to the interview I had about 2 weeks ago, I think another absurd part is how I had to rehearse, I had to practice. Not even practicing how to do the exact job, but practicing how to answer a bunch of questions. These are questions that don't really reflect whether or not I can do the job. Maybe a few of them, because one of them asked, "Oh, do you know how to use Excel?" Which I did, obviously. And that was the only question that actually, mattered in terms of whether or not I can do the job. But the other questions were like, why do you want to work here? Oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Which they only ask because they don't want you to quit the job too soon. They also ask questions like, oh, how do you make sure you're communicating efficiently? That's such a dumb question. These are questions that they shouldn't even be asking because you're only going to be able to know if you actually see us at work. Anyone can just make a scripted answer. Whether it's true or not, you're only going to be able to know that if you actually see them at work. They just asked a bunch of ridiculous nonsense. And this is a job that I can easily do. But for reasons out of my control, I did not get the job. It's just wild how your worth is not really measured by what you can do, what you know. It's measured by your success in this performance. Some people just can't really do job interviews. And that's me. I'm not naturally confident. I'm not extroverted. I'm introverted. I'm just not good at faking it. But the question is, isn't it ridiculous that this is even important? Why does my success depend on whether or not I can fake it, instead of whether or not I can actually do the job? It's so sad how we've, come to this. My worth as a human being is apparently dictated by my ability to fake it or not. I don't even think I'm that smart of a person, but first of all, I think I'm a very creative person. And I'm not trying to sound narcissistic, but I do think I'm creative. I do think I'm knowledgeable about the jobs I want. I did go to college, and even if I didn't go to college, I'd still be able to do these jobs. And it's like the whole point of college was to just, get a piece of paper that shows, yeah, you can actually dedicate yourself to something. But none of that matters at all. What matters is whether or not you can be fake. What matters is rehearsing questions that don't really matter at all. What matters is wasting away your time applying to hundreds of jobs. In my ideal world, people wouldn't even need jobs, but let's just say I tried to change the way this world is. I'd make it so that if you're knowledgeable about a topic, if you have experience, skills, then you should be able to get a job. It should not be about whether or not you can be liked, because that's very subjective. It's about, can you show up to work and do the tasks? That's it. That's all that matters. Nothing else is supposed to matter as long as someone can do the job. But we made other things matter that should not matter. Anyways, that's basically all I have to say. If you're someone that's having a tough time finding a job, just know that it's not you, it's the system.